Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rock and Celluloid, Bob Brack for short. So, doing a little review of Trainwreck, Woodstock 1999. Woodstock 99, sorry, which I watched on Netflix the other day. So I was actually in the hairdresser's the other day getting my hair done. And the hairdresser said, "Oh, what's this Woodstock 99 thing?" And she was talking about it, and she actually watched it twice. She was so mortified by what she saw. Now, I'd already seen the documentary on Sky Documentaries about Woodstock 99, which is well worth checking out, because that covers different ground to this one, so they're both worth seeing. The Sky documentary covers the fact that someone died, and the sexual assaults more that occurred. So what was interesting about watching this was I started to think sort of historically about that time, about the change in music, and where the music, what it said about where the music industry was to a certain extent. So this isn't so much as a review; it's kind of a little kind of think piece on the music and that time really. But I would say it is well worth seeing the documentary and the Sky one. So to sort of backtrack, a promoter called Michael Lang and another guy had done the original Woodstock in '69. Michael Lang carried on; he did it in '94. He did it in '99. So what a lot of people don't realise, the original Woodstock lost money, and so did the one from 1994. So there's that thing in my mind, I suppose, they've done a 25th anniversary, it's like, oh, let's do the 30th anniversary, but was it like, oh, let's finally make some money from Woodstock? There's a lot of myths put about the original Woodstock, that it's all awesome. I think the movie, the film, and the footage of it has sort of, contributed to that perception. I think it's an amazing document of the bands of the day. And it's easy to forget what bands played that day. Sometimes, you see the footage of Hendrix or Santana, but you forget like Jefferson Airplane were on and things like that. But when you look at the staging, it's quite mad to think what we have now for festivals. Obviously, the fences broke and people got in for free. There was obviously supply problems at Woodstock. There was people off the heads. There's people hungry. I'm sure some people had a great time. It might have been a bit more miserable for other people. But anyway, the collective memory has amnesiaed that out of the consciousness, and it's projected this thing as it's symbolising the 60s. And the counterculture movement and the baby boomers and their aspirations, I suppose. But obviously the few weeks later, a couple of months later, there was the Altamont Free Festival where the young black man was murdered by the Hells Angels. The Rolling Stones free concert at Altamont Speedway, and that was seen as the end of the 60s, and then that also ties in with the Manson killings, Charles Manson posing as a hippie effectively to infiltrate the counterculture. That's sort of some of the context of Woodstock. Woodstock 94 was the peak of the kind of grunge era and other acts around that time, and obviously you'd had hair metal had been the sort of popular rock thing of the 80s. So in Woodstock 94 you had a lot more of bands with a peaceful attitude, with a better attitude towards women and so on, as far as I know. And the festival was pretty well received, but it didn't make money. So come Woodstock 99, they decided to go to a disused air base outside New York, which had a lot of infrastructure, which would be really good for running a festival. The disadvantage of it was a massive space, but it was an air base, it was military, but also it's a lot of asphalt, concrete. It hasn't got like a festival field vibe. Cut a long story short, they basically, they charged high ticket prices, but some premium acts on for the day. There was Korn, Limp Bizkit, Chili Peppers. People forget how big these bands were back then, particularly Korn and Limp Bizkit, and we'll come to them. So they had them on and various other bands, but they're charging a very high amount for water, high amount for food. Stuff broke down, sanitary and so on. It was very hot, and people started kicking off really, particularly in the song Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit, and the accusation is that Fred Durst encouraged it. Watching the footage on both the documentaries, I would say if he didn't encourage it, he certainly didn't try to stop it, and it's your job as a front man if you see stuff like that, it's just to try and calm stuff down. So anyway, it's weird that these bands, you know, I was never into new metal. I actually can't fucking stand it. I didn't like the low tunings. There was no guitar solos. I don't like rap. So there was a lot of rap crossover, Limp Bizkit, Korn. But also seemed to me the bands, they seem to be taking aspects of hair metal in that they were kind of, you know, going out with porn actresses and, you know, Kid Rock's on as well. He comes in a big fur coat and you imagine him scantily clad in his videos. So they're taking those kind of misogynistic elements of hair metal. But it was kind of in this kind of really angry frat boy sort of culture as well. And that's really what comes to pass in the concert. The bands are put on are kind of too angry and summon up too much anger, I suppose. Or the audience they attract angry, and they're not a Woodstock type of audience. So there's that aspect. Obviously, the young people there get very angry because they're hot, because they've not got access to like kind of basic human supplies properly, and they're being ripped off really by a bunch of baby boomers. And that's what baby boomers keep doing sometimes, is selling their things that they think are great back to younger people, but also making a shitload of money out of it. And a lot of things from the 60s, you know, think about if I wanted to go on a yoga retreat or something, you know, or if I wanted to buy some, you know, fancy candles from some like high-end hippie shop or something like that. It's that idea that, you know, these aspects, these things that came from the counterculture have been repackaged into capitalism. So, and the people there are kind of victims of that to a certain extent, and feel angry about that. And they probably feel more angry now, you know, when you think about, like in this country, for instance, the Brexit vote, the perception is a lot of baby boomers have voted to leave the EU and take away opportunities and rights from younger people because they know better. But yeah, so that's sort of that aspect. The other thing about Woodstock 99, 1999 is the peak of, or getting near the peak of the music industry. I think in 99 or 2000, the compact disc sold more compact discs than at any time. I think NSYNC sold 2 million copies in 1 week of an album on compact disc. So there's another aspect there. It's like prior to the compact disc, an album would come out and that was it. They didn't reissue them. They didn't do anniversary things. They didn't do this or that. Once a compact disc came out, the industry, the cassette to a certain extent, but certainly compact disc, it could resell your favourite album to the baby boomers who bought it originally. And then in the 90s, you're starting to get the remasters coming in. So very early 90s, you get the Zep remasters, and then you get A&R man, specifically A&R people, employed to sort of deal with remasters and repackaging, Beatles Anthology, things like that. And this is a way to generate money from old rope. So you've got all the new bands. Korn, you know, when they played Woodstock, their album sold 5 million copies. I forget the title of the album. It's got Follow the Leader, I think it is, yeah. It's got the song Freaks on a Leash on it. And Limp Bizkit were massive. Chili Peppers, Californication. Massive selling albums. And then you've got also remasters, you know, so the industry's generating loads of money, but obviously Napster's just come out the year before. So the industry is going to decline for a bit because of pirating and so on. And it just seems that the Woodstock 99 represents the kind of Roman Empire peak of the music industry, and then when everything starts burning and so on, it kind of seems fairly symbolic. Another interesting aspect of the documentary is the MTV then, the kid says, "Oh, I fucking hate your programme," you know. In the 80s, the young people loved MTV for the hair metal bands and stuff like that, and then the grunge. By the end of the 90s, they're pushing boy bands like Backstreet Boys. The industry's, you know, worked out its magic model. You know, I can package acts. I don't need the problem of bands falling out or members dying of drug overdoses, you know, because that stops the money. It stops the money supply. So they really fucking hate MTV. They're there. And Michael Lang, the promoter, just seems really detached from everything. When he's been interviewed at the end, he's passed away there. He doesn't seem to kind of accept responsibility. He seems to be blaming, you know, the few bad apples. But, you know, there's just something wrong about it, you know. about the whole thing. They've just got it completely wrong. And again, it's just that thing. Um, Again, of the counterculture trying to sell back to young people what they think they should like. Two of the films that are referenced at the start of the Woodstock '99, the Trainwreck documentary, are actually American Pie, which is the first NC-17 film. I think it's NC-17 to get to #1 in America or be a big hit. And obviously that's all about sex and trying to lose your cherry and stuff. But again, it's got that kind of a little bit of frat boy sort of behaviour. Well, it's quite sweet in a way, but they mentioned Fight Club. I think Fight Club's more interesting, but Fight Club's a kind of bit of a flop at the time. But there's that classic thing where all the consumption that it criticises is consumption invented by baby boomers. I remember Edward Norton saying about the VW Beetle, they bought out the flash new VW Beetle around that time, and the Mini. And they, again, were counterculture things that baby boomers thought that we should enjoy, but were sold back at a far more expensive price. I mean, when they issued the VW Beetle and the Mini, they weren't cheap go-to first car type things. So there's there's that aspect of it as well. So there's that thing in the culture, and I don't know what happened now. You had Woodstock, 99, Woodstock 29, and people would bloody explode. They'd be fucking furious. I think the whole thing would burn, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's interesting. To sort of look at that time in music. Like I said, I didn't like new metal at the time. Once the mid-90s came, I just went back and listened to the Rainbow, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, all the stuff I loved as a teenager. And I never really got new metal. To me, it didn't have enough melody. The guitars were so far down-tuned. It kind of almost wasn't heavy. But it was a massive seller. And as we went into the noughties, there's no doubt that rock music and heavy music has massively gone down in terms of sales. Five Finger Death Punch aside, there really hasn't, and a bit of Disturbed, new metal holdover. So that's one of the other interesting things, the Woodstock thing captures the thing when some aspects of heavy music is still one of the big sellers. So yeah, more of a kind of little think piece, this review. They're well worth checking out. Check out the Woodstock Trainwreck documentary, 3 parts, but it is worth checking out the Sky one as well. Some different stories, different perspectives. This is what happens when people want to make money, don't really understand the acts they're booking, don't understand the culture, and just think because something was great in their day, it should be sold back at vast expense. I'm not sure people want that. Okay, I'll see you again. Remember to share and subscribe. Thanks very much.